Hello everyone, I'm Mike Levin of MikeLevinSEO.com, and I'm out walking the dog at about 7 a.m. on Saturday, August 7th, 2014, and this is my morning thoughts, which are still on SEO and Bookmarklets. I ran out of steam yesterday about halfway during the day after an intensive week of infrastructure building and shooting videos and setting up my Raspberry Pi as my coding base of operations. And one of the cornerstone projects is the ability to collect data from the internet at large through a web browser, through highlighting text on a page and hitting a button, probably a bookmarklet, without doing a web crawl. This is a crawlless data collection technique. And I've been doing bookmarklets now for many years, and it's a mini arms race, not nearly as bad as the field of SEO itself. But the browsers are gradually maturing, and the JavaScript execution context is gradually maturing, shutting down what is frankly security flaws. So the most recent one, sometime during the beginning of 2013, mixed security context bookmarklets stopped working. So that means you couldn't do that trick of using a bookmarklet on an HTTPS site if your backend server was not also using SSL or security. So you had to get a security certificate, and that means you couldn't use kind of informal servers in the background. It actually had to probably have a domain name connected to it, and that domain needed to have a security certificate issued for it that had to be installed on the server. And so my whole Raspberry Pi approach, where most of the things that I'm building can just kind of float, be used anywhere, plug into a network anywhere, and have kind of like a little Swiss Army knife of SEO tools, not so much. And that's a problem, because it's a great trick, and all these other things like Grease Monkey and Chrome extensions all have their own little gotchas. Nothing is so cross-cutting across all browsers as bookmarklets themselves, which are almost part of the JavaScript specification, the way Java::links actually are supposed to work and therefore be bookmarkable like any other link. So I like bookmarklets, and it's too much to ask users out there to go through this rigmarole of security certificates and domain names just to download my tools and use them on their own server or install them on a Pi or on Linux. I need another solution. So it's either give up bookmarklets or give up mixed security context. And that's a common thing, mixed security context. If you want to collect data off of YouTube or Twitter or make it work inside Google Docs, you pretty much need it to work in S protocol. So can you make a bookmarklet work in S protocol without the mixed context? Yes. You simply don't make the bookmarklet call a server on that same page. You can have it open a new page, and the new page it opens will in fact work. It will work in the sense that it will have the data from the prior page, which was S, even though the page you're looking at is not S. So suddenly all the Pi approach and the floating server without a security certificate or domain name works also, but you've got tabs popping up every time you do this trick. So the data collection flow goes highlight text, hit bookmarklet, close tab, highlight text, hit bookmarklet, close tab. But it's got to be a better solution than these other things which are dead ends. At least it's not a dead end. And it even opens up a whole avenue of new possibilities. Because it's a new page you're displaying, it now has its whole own web storage location. HTML5 has its own built-in database called local web storage, and it's a mixed blessing because it can hold a lot, but it is bound to the domain name from which it was invoked, so that data can't be shared between websites. It's got similar security restrictions as cookies, actually much better, and reflects the movement that's occurring in browsers of becoming a code execution environment ready for prime time, supporting full-fledged applications, but put on rails all kinds of consortium and vendor imposed restrictions so that browsers don't become the new, spamming Trojan horse virus platform that Windows was back in the 90s. So you have this great new execution context, a place to run code in JavaScript on the browser, which is not the site that the data was collected from, but has the data that was highlighted. Now you've got some choices. You can do things directly in that client, in that web browser, or you can start to take advantage of the much less limited code execution environment that is Python sitting in the background as a web server. So you can start communicating now between that new tab that opened up and the Raspberry Pi. So I think I've got my plan as far as doing a Bookmarklet technology that has a little bit of life left in it. It's, the rhythm is going to look like, highlight text, click Bookmarklet, tab opens. The place where the tab opens can have some, persistence, page-to-page context. So every time you close the tab and open it, you can show the previous keywords that were collected, so long as web storage works off of IPs or localhost. It might actually, it won't be using localhost because it's not the machine you're sitting on in any case. But an IP or perhaps a host entry to give your local Raspberry Pi that might not be in the domain name system a domain name anyway. But as long as that problem is solved, a very surmountable problem, you'll have web storage persistence even between closing out of those tabs. So I could build the app so that collected keywords always just stay right on the web browser, or I could build the app so that it dumps them back onto the Python server in the background on every click. And then there's the additional nuance of how do you get them useful? They're not really useful either on the server or on your local web browser because they got to end up in a spreadsheet. Let's face it, you're collecting keywords or data, you want it in a spreadsheet. So I'm going to look at taking Python dictionary objects, which is what I think I'm going to be collecting the data into, and using the shove library for Python, which is a replacement for shelve. And for those not familiar with this, name-value pairs are native data types in Python, but they're not persistent. To get persistence, you use the shelf API, which connects it to a text file sitting on your hard drive. Bam! Name-value pair, mini persistence. And then there's a whole lot of tricks to get that to be into something more industrial, like the Unix database, or much larger databases like Redis. And the shove Git project is a way of connecting a Python dictionary to almost any database out there, even MySQL and Postgres, but not to Google spreadsheets. It's not part of the list of supported, quote, databases of shove. So the solution is actually sitting there trying to suggest itself quite eloquently or elegantly, and I'll try and state it eloquently. As you collect data off the internet using a bookmarklet, it goes into a queue. That queue is very easily established using web storage as part of HTML5. So I get to satisfy all the hunger out there of people who really want web development programming instruction. It's just an unavoidable reality that what's hot is HTML5, CSS3, the DOM, and all the user interface related technologies, not the Python stuff I'm trying to demonstrate to everybody. So there will be a web development side of this project of great interest, broadly applicable, good foundation web programming and user interface design knowledge. And then I'll have a way to hit a button to dump that queue into the database of your choice, maybe through pre-configuration or maybe a choice at the time. But essentially you go highlight, click Bookmarklet, close tab, highlight, click Bookmarklet, close tab. Keep doing that until you've got enough collected up that you want to commit it. And then the next time you collect something, instead of closing the tab, you hit a save button. It's already saved, it's safe, it's in your web store, your local web store, but the next click, the click on save will just flow it directly and almost magically into that Google spreadsheet. It's much more satisfying to just watch those keywords appear as you click the Bookmarklet, but that poses certain problems. That means that every time you click the Bookmarklet, it's got to know what Google spreadsheet to target, and the gateway to the database, the data binding, the importing of the data has to happen on a much more frequent basis, and it makes a application that looks, feels, and operates more tightly coupled with a specific database you're using. This other way, you could insert all kinds of options before it gets, quote, committed to anything beyond web storage, such as email. It's a great interactive session you could have with clients, collect keywords and shoot them off to someone. And so that's my thought work for this morning. I've rambled on for over 12 minutes, but I think that pretty much clarifies the work I'm going to do today, and justifies me running out of steam yesterday, because I fear to think what I would have implemented yesterday if after an intensive week I sat down and tried to do a big project on Friday afternoon without having slept on it like I did last night. I think a lot of this comes out by just not pushing yourself, taking a step back, taking a deep breath, spending time with your kid, giving the dog a nice walk in the rain. And that's it. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to talk to you again soon, probably during project implementation. And don't forget to subscribe.